are studying economics, there's one concept we encounter early on and continue to use throughout your studies: preferences. Preferences are central to understanding consumer choices. In economics, it's assumed that what you buy reflects your preferences, given your income and the prices of goods. This is known as rigid preference theory. Rather than diving into the many factors that shape preferences, economics simplifies this by assuming your purchases reflect what you prefer most within the limits of your budget. Easy to assume that what we buy reflects our needs, but in revealed preference theory, that's not necessarily the case. For example, when you are hungry and buy a burger from a fast food restaurant, the theory suggests that this purchase reflects your preferences. But does it truly meet your need for nutrition and health? Or it's just an easy and cheap way to satisfy hunger? You might have addressed your immediate hunger, but did you provide your body with the nutrients it really needs? Or did you perhaps harm your health by raising cholesterol and triglyceride levels? In economics, it's often assumed that with a higher income, we can satisfy more of our preferences. But does this also apply to our needs? For example, let's consider health. We often think wealthy people enjoy better health, while poor individuals in developed countries may face issues like obesity. But is it really that simple? Does having more money always lead to better satisfaction of basic needs? Think about it. Does a higher income necessarily help us meet our true needs, or does it sometimes lead us to spend more on luxuries and non-essentials? This raises an important question. How much of that extra income is actually used to meet real needs, and how much is spent on wants? Having the right to reliable information about the products we consume improves the way we meet our needs. Not necessarily. While such information is important, it's not always prioritized by companies or consumers. For instance, companies might not highlight negative aspects of their products like health risks or environmental impacts. On the consumer side, even when we have access to accurate information like nutritional labels or health warnings, we might overlook it. Consider the fast food burger again. Even if you know it's high in unhealthy fats and low in essential nutrients, other factors often play a bigger role in your decision to buy it. The low price, the convenience of getting and eating it quickly, your established habits, and even the social aspect of eating with friends who also choose fast food can outweigh the impact of health information on your choice. In economic theory, it's assumed that with more information and money, we can better satisfy our preferences. However, when it comes to truly meeting our needs, the situation is more complex. Satisfying needs often requires more than just information and financial resources. It involves understanding psychological and social factors that influence our choices. This is where other disciplines like psychology and sociology become essential. They help us delve deeper into why we might not always act in our best interest, even when we have the necessary information. Have you ever thought about how our needs are translated into rights? When we talk about rights such as healthcare, education, or social security, we are not just expressing personal preferences. We are recognizing basic needs that society agrees should be guaranteed to everyone. That is why human rights are at the heart of global and national policies for sustainable development. Think of the Brundtland Report, which led to the foundation for our understanding of sustainable development, or the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs). Specifically, SDG Goal 12 focuses on responsible consumption and production, emphasizing the importance of meeting people's needs sustainably rather than endlessly catering to individual preferences. By recognizing that everyone has basic needs and the right to have them met, we open the door to important conversation about how to build a fairer, more sustainable world. It's not just about what we want, it's about ensuring that everyone's basic needs are met. In the face of limited resources and the looming threat of climate change, we need to find ways to meet our needs in less resource intensive and carbon intensive ways. Approaching this issue from the perspective of preferences might suggest using budget constraints as a natural mechanism to curb excessive consumption, for example, by increasing the prices of basic resources. But is this approach effective or fair? Relying on price mechanisms alone is not enough. Moreover, it indirectly allows people with very high incomes to continue damaging the environment and emitting greenhouse gases simply because they can afford to do so, for example, by buying emission permits. Thus, wealth gives anyone the right to exploit our common good, the environment, and the climate without restriction. Relying solely on market mechanisms can further compromise the basic needs of people with low incomes. Due to limited financial resources, they already face challenges such as food poverty, limited access to unpolluted land, healthy food, and clean water. Should the burden of resource scarcity fall hardest on those who are least able to bear it? Take water scarcity as an example. Limited water resources are leading to increasing conflicts and attempts to privatize water, which raises the prices. Such actions harm the basic needs of the poor people. This raises critical questions: who ultimately pays the price? Who caused the shortage? In many African countries, water shortages are partly a consequence of overconsumption in highly developed countries, often for non-essential products like cut flowers that cater to preferences rather than needs. Is it fair that the preferences of some lead to deprivation of others? Furthermore, rising energy prices in the European Union are leading to an increase in fuel poverty. Many households struggle to afford adequate heating and electricity, compromising their basic needs for warmth and light. Should access to essential energy services be a privilege only for those who can afford higher prices? Leaving the reduction of resource consumption solely to the voluntary choices of individuals is challenging. Yes, some of us might choose, even to our own detriment, to test the limits of self-restraint, much like the man in the story who tried to teach his horse to eat less and less until, unfortunately, it starved. There are individuals who willingly practice self-restraint, and there are those who are forced to consume less due to low income or limited access to resources. But is it fair for only some of us to limit our consumption, whether by choice or necessity, while others continue to squander resources? Should the responsibility of reducing consumption rest solely on the shoulders of the willing or the disadvantaged, while the rest carry on without change? If relying on the market isn't sufficient, since it allows some people to meet their needs excessively by excluding others, then who should take responsibility and how should we proceed? We need alternative, more democratic forms of decision-making that align with the fundamental principles of our civilization as enshrined in human rights. This means creating spaces where we can openly debate and decide collectively on how to meet our needs. By engaging in public dialogue, we can develop fair and sustainable strategies that ensure everyone has the opportunity to fulfill their needs without overburdening our planet. Can we negotiate our consumption choices? When it comes to preferences, the answer is often no. What you choose to buy is seen as your unquestionable personal choice. Attempting to question or influence your preferences can be viewed as paternalistic and an infringement on personal freedom and autonomy. Contrast, when we discuss needs, we open the door to meaningful public dialogue. Needs are universal and can be collectively understood and addressed. Focusing on needs invites community participation and grassroots collaboration to find fair and sustainable ways to meet them. This approach fosters inclusive conversations about consumption, allowing us to explore effective methods to fulfill everyone's basic requirements. This brings us back to the core issue, the distinction between our needs and the ways we fulfill them. While all humans share basic needs, like those identified by Maslow's hierarchy of needs or Nussbaum's capabilities approach, we differ in how we satisfy them. It's in these methods of fulfilling needs that we find room for negotiation and dialogue. By engaging with others and exchanging experiences, we can learn how to meet our needs in the most sustainable ways, using our scientific knowledge and available technologies. Consider the need for leisure. One way to satisfy this need is by flying or driving to distant places every weekend. However, we could choose to travel less frequently, visit destinations closer to home, or use less carbon-intensive transport like trains or buses. This way, we still enjoy our leisure time, but with a smaller environmental footprint. Similarly, think about our need for clothing and personal expression. We might fulfill this need by buying new clothes every week from fast fashion retailers. Alternatively, we could shop at second-hand stores, invest in sustainable fashion brands, or alter and upcycle used garments. These choices allow us to meet our needs without contributing to overconsumption and waste. This is where highly developed countries have significant work to do. They often meet their needs in extremely resource-intensive and emission-intensive ways. These nations are the largest contributions to global resource consumption, CO2 emissions, and pollution. Moreover, they impose burdens on developing countries not only through environmental degradation, but also by perpetuating poor working conditions in their supply chains, which violate basic human rights and needs. Is it fair that the consumption habits of a few lead to the deprivation of many? By reevaluating how we fulfill our needs, especially in affluent societies, we can work towards more equitable and sustainable consumption patterns. It's about making choices that not only meet our needs, but also respect the rights and needs of others around the world. As we conclude, let's reflect on why distinguishing between needs and preferences is crucial for addressing the challenges of sustainable consumption. Firstly, mainstream economics often focuses on satisfying preferences but doesn't necessarily guide us on how to fulfill our actual needs. This is where other disciplines like psychology, sociology, and environmental science become invaluable, offering deeper insight into human behavior and well-being. Secondly, while it's true that a higher income can help us meet our needs and preferences, it also tends to lead to greater consumption of resources. This excessive use not only depletes our planet's resources, but also reduces the opportunities of others to meet their basic needs, needs that are recognized as fundamental human rights. Lastly, we cannot rely solely on market mechanisms to reduce resource-intensive and emission-heavy ways of meeting needs. Achieving sustainable consumption requires open public dialogue and the sharing of experiences. By collectively exploring how to meet our needs in more sustainable ways, we can avoid placing undue burdens on others and the environment. By recognizing the difference between what we need and what we want, and by engaging collective conversations, we can work towards a more equitable and sustainable future. It's not just about satisfying individual desires, it's about ensuring that everyone's essential needs are met while safeguarding our planet for future generations. So, as we move forward, let's consider how can each of us contribute to this important shift towards sustainable consumption? What steps can we take to prioritize needs of our wants in our daily lives? Thank you for joining me in this critical discussion. Together, we can make a difference.